Hi, we are sitting here on a park bench in Central Park. Now I wonder just how many times a guy like Richard Cohen finds his way into a park like this one. Strikes me more as a guy that would be, I don't know, hanging out at some soiree with the Hollywood elites with a bow tie on, smiling to himself all night. Oh, but he's a journalist. I've got a newspaper article here, got some reading glasses here, and I like the fact that they're purple, so don't pick on me for that. Now, Richard Cohen appears regularly in the New York Daily News. The New York Daily News is a top 10 newspaper nationally. So this guy's got some clout, he's got people, he's got lots and lots of people reading him. About Syria, President Trump. The right decision, comma. When I first saw that, I was like, oh, now the guy finally is talking. And it says, the wrong president. So apparently, even when President Trump is right, he's wrong. Last week was bad for two nations. The first was Syria, which got 59 Tomahawk missiles slammed into it, destroying part of its air force, causing some casualties, and losing the confidence that it could use a nerve agent with impunity. Nicely written. The second was the United States, which launched those missiles and then, with some exceptions, roared its approval of what its president did. That will change soon enough. It was the right decision. It was just made by the wrong person. Soon enough, that'll change. Where does he get off? He's a clairvoyant, this guy. I mean, that's just plain damn stupid. It really is. That'll change soon enough. Ah, shut up. Virtually up to the moment those missiles were launched, President Trump not only had an entirely different Syria policy, he in fact had none at all. How could you have an entirely different one and none at all? In the preceding weeks, his White House spokesman, his Secretary of State, and his U.S. ambassador had all shrugged their indifference to the fate of this guy in Syria. It came down to this: the White House didn't give a damn. They shrugged their indifference. See, what this man calls them shrugging their indifference is in reality an American White House saying it's not a priority right now. If the conditions change on the ground, any president and any commander-in-chief is likely to take a different tack. Whether those foolish pronouncements encouraged Assad to have his Air Force drop the nerve agent sarin on the hapless civilians of Khan Sheikhoun is not yet known. Oh, it couldn't have been maybe the foolishness of a red line that completely and totally evaporated during the Obama years. Could that be a cue for a guy like Bashar Assad to go ahead and kill 1,500 people? A preliminary search shows that Mr. Cohen never really came at the Obama White House. Now, he does throw out some jabs at Obama here in this piece. That's easy enough to do now. This man really is not worth reading. All he wants to say is that President Trump bad. Now, Mr. Cohen proceeds with, it takes a while for things to go wrong. Remember the banner mission accomplished, which later came to mock the clueless George W. Bush? In the meantime, Trump will learn what all presidents do eventually, that when it comes to approval ratings, a military strike is better than infrastructure any day, and takes less time too. Mission accomplished that everybody still screams about, including this guy here and there. That mission was accomplished. It was basically to remove Saddam Hussein. The next mission was what was to follow, what was going to ensue. There was a mission accomplished there. Clueless would describe a guy like this, who goes on to say that basically President Trump was encouraged by political expediency to do what he did. That's anything but what this president is. He doesn't go along with that sort of thing. He's a refreshing change from it, Mr. Cohen. Look, this is moronic. He goes on here and says, Trump is a special and worrisome case. He is by far the least experienced, least knowledgeable, and least stable commander-in-chief in American history. Really, Mr. Cohen? Were you asleep for the last 8 years? President Obama hadn't done so much as run a popsicle stand. All the experience of a dog catcher. President Trump has tremendous executive experience. He has put tens and tens of thousands of people to work, has made tremendous number of executive decisions. What did President Obama have? He had a short stint in the state Senate, where I think it was 74% of the time he didn't even vote. He never, it was non-present, NP. Then he went off to the U.S. Senate, spent a couple years there, never did anything, never chaired any board, never did anything in the U.S. Senate. To say that this is the least experienced commander-in-chief of all time is so disgustingly stupid as to show this man's true colors. Hey, Richard Cohen, I tell you right here, right now, this man who appears regularly in one of the top 10 newspapers of America, if you and I were to get into a debate, you'd have no shot with me, bub. You got no shot with this guy or any thinking person that is intellectually honest. This is a bunch of drivel, and nobody should be listening to this guy or reading any newspaper that prominently features him with any seriousness. Lastly, let me tell you what. I pick up the Daily News every day to keep my finger on the pulse of how moronic they really are and to read their comics. I like the comics in the Daily News. I do. And that's about as newsworthy as the paper itself is. Just like their comic strips. It's the same thing. It's all in the same vein.